this is my attempt at making wooden footballs. There's loads of videos on these on the internet, but I wanted two things. I wanted to make very small, like 2-inch diameter wooden football, right up to 6-inch. So I've made this adjustable. First thing, it's flat board, 7 inches tall and 6 inches wide, with a fence screwed to it, and used one of these digital angle bevel gauges, digital bevel gauge I call it. I think they're called digital angle finders, God, that's locked, there we go, to set that angle to 60 degrees. So that included angle there is 120 degrees. Be accurate. Then I screwed that on, and that originally had that piece of wood on the end of there. While the table saw set at 90 degrees, the angle of the blade, cut that off, and I used a pin router to route this slot in, but you can do it in a number of ways. Marked through, drilled a hole through, made a T-nut out of a furniture nut. Let's put it that way first. Now this has two orientations, and you must have a washer, because otherwise it pulls it off the fence. And make sure that's in there, it's not. There we go. So I've got a formula for the edge length of the polygon, the hexagons and the pentagons, to the diameter of the sphere that it's going to create. And the first step is to saw off one corner. After you've cut this fence, you can cut the bevel on your sled, which rides up against the table saw fence, nice and simple. So with this in there, we know that we're cutting this at the right angle. That's 90 degrees, so we know that this fence is at 120 degrees to this edge. So when we cut that, we get a nice 120 degree angle in this corner, and you make sure that that edge is just a bit longer than the edge length that you're going to need to in your hexagons. Cut that off. Do that for, well, if you're going to have 20, do 25. Have a few spares, because you probably get a couple go wrong. Then, clamping I'll cover in a second. Flip that over. So now instead of a 90 degree angle there, we've got a 120 degree angle. And this is where you have to measure your edge length. So that 120 we've created in this goes in there, and a clamp is simply a wooden finger, a screw, a furniture bolt, a threaded insert furniture nut one, in there. Use one of your pieces of template wood. Make sure you're registering both fences. I'm not going to saw it now because it's so noisy. Saw that second edge off. Right, and that's the only time that you can actually measure your edge length, because your edge length depends on the thickness of your material, because your saw's on that bevel, it's going to come out past the edge of this sled out further across the top of your metal. You're never going to guess measure that, or even calculating it, you're never going to set it right. So just do it on that first one, then set this fence so that you're getting the right edge length, and then after that it's just a matter of cut the next one, rotate it anti-clockwise, cut the next one, rotate it anti-clockwise, and by the time you've done that all the way around, you've got your hexagon. The operation with the pentagon is exactly the same, except on your pentagon jig the angle's different. Instead of this being a 60 degree to give a 120 degree included there, you've got a 72 degree which gives a 108 degree included angle there. So I haven't started cutting these yet. I've got to bevel it now to 16.5 degrees. Oh, this one is 20.9, which means your table saw is set at 90 minus that. You know, the angle of your blade when you're using one of these, which you'll also need to set the angle of your mitre cut accurately. So it's really very simple, and because you've got this adjustment, you can make these. I'll probably need a second anchor point, you know, a threaded insert in there for larger ones. But, so I could cut hexagons between, well, I could probably go a little bit smaller than this, but glue up would be difficult, but I'll come to that in a minute. So like that is like about a 2-inch. Anyway, you could do hexagons up to 6 inch, to give you a sphere up to a 6-inch sphere down to a 2-inch sphere. Glue up, I'm doing by, I've got to do this more accurately, but this is, I've done a test of this and it does work. This is called a net. So you get an isometric projection, grid, isometric grid, and you draw what's called a net. You can find images for the nets, and I've chosen this one specifically because it fits on this isometric grid. So the black hexagons here will all have a hexagon glued onto the final grid. Actually glue it down onto every one of those black ones, 20 of them. Something wrong with that one. See, that's why I say do 25. That edge is crooked, must have slipped in the thing. Let's get another one. That's better. So I'll glue all the 20 of those to the net, the paper net, which has to be drawn accurately as well. So these edges are 10.5, so I've got to redraw that grid, making sure that all the edges are 10.5. The red ones, the red hexagons that I've left on there, are when this folds up, when these angles fold in, for example, the 5 around that hexagon there, which is not part of the net, will form the pentagon inside there. So that one there, we cut through, but it'll overlap and it'll allow me to glue it up and hold it together while it's glued up. So all the red ones on here are either the pentagons or these extra ones, and a couple of extra little butterflies, because I'm not sure how it's going to glue side to side. This kind of rolls up into the sphere. So with 20 of those glued on, put glue on all your edges and just roll it up. And that should work. I've tested it on just one little grouping of 5 and it did work there. Haven't cut my pentagons yet, because now the other thing is I want to be able to do this, not just the hole left in the pentagons for this. I want to put a star inside it, make a star and construct this around a star, and the pentagons are too small for the star that's created, the small stellated dodecahedron. So what I'll need to do is create these hexagons, but 3 of the edges, so every other edge will have to have an extra 1.5 millimeters or so taken off, so it'll be an unequal hexagon, and that will increase the size of the pentagons. So this setup's good for that. All I need to do is just move my fence. Let's get that back where it was there. I'll just need to, once I've cut them, just move that fence in 1.5 millimeters, and the other good thing about this is I can overlap the edge of this, so you can see why it's going to be so good for such small bits. And it doesn't matter if I've already cut the edge of this off, so, and it doesn't really matter. The good thing about it being made of wood. So that's it really. I've still got things to work out. I've been practicing this morning drawing that isometric grid in Inkscape, but I haven't figured out how to do it to an exact size yet. So I'll maybe printing those, hopefully be printing those. But they are, of course, that is specific to this size or diameter of sphere that I'm aiming for. Alright, thanks for watching.